I have danced on the edge of death in every aspect you can, with drugs, violence, high-speed chases, everything that you can think of. I've danced on the edge of death, and 90% of the people that I grew up and friends that I've had in my life aren't here anymore. They're all gone, right? There's a very select few of us, and half of them are either addicted to drugs, days away from overdosing, or they're successful.
Hey everybody, this interview is by far the most important interview I've ever gotten to do in my life, and it's also the first interview I've ever been nervous to do. See, this dude, Struggle Jennings, Waylon Jennings' grandson, is one of my favorite musical artists. His music has gotten me through some of the darkest times because he has been to some of the same places and through some of the same stuff that I've been through in my life. So I found it so relatable. And the way that this dude has come and brought the full turnaround story, he has one of the best American comeback stories of all time. So I hope you guys kick back and enjoy this, because this is a wild ride with Struggle, man. Struggle, man. Thank you so much for coming out and spending a little time with us today, baby. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. And I think your story is so important.
Yeah, man, that means the world to me, for real. You know, it's something that I get to say a lot, is like hearing things like that from people makes all the tragedy, all the shit that I went through not be in vain, you know? Because like all the loss, all the, I tell people all the time, it's like, especially when they're down at their lowest, it's like, bro, you got to pick it up and you got to take this ball and carry it as far as you can, because regardless what you've lost, or, you know, how many people that you've lost, or how many obstacles are in your way, all the shit that you go through can end one or two ways. You know what I mean? It can either be the reason that you quit, or it can be the reason that you overcame and, you know, fucking succeeded. And with those stories like the ones that we have, and all the people we've lost, all the death, all the heartache, all the prison time, you know, everything that we've been through, if it's got to end great, right? There's got to be an incredible ending to this story, or it was all in vain. So
absolutely. So I was a career criminal for like 20 years, you know, drug addict, childhood sexual assault victim. And the only way that my story makes any sense is if I use it to reach back and be able to have a voice for those who are still struggling, for those who don't know the way out of the darkness, to be able to help people find recovery and redemption. So I feel like we are on a very similar mission, man.
100%.
And that's why I'm so happy to be
here. I'm glad we linked,
today,
man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's wonderful along this journey when you find like-minded people that can relate to you and that you can relate with. And, you know, and to see like meeting guys like you just gives me that much more hope to the future that looks so dim sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
With the way everything's going and with the world and the temperature, it's like there's times where you feel like you're fighting alone. So meeting guys like you is always such a breath of fresh air. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, we're gonna be on the front lines together, man.
So I've gotten a lot of comments lately about the fact that I've lost a lot of weight. 38 pounds to be exact. And a lot of you have asked me, how did you do that? Achieving any type of fitness goal is gonna be about 20% what you do in the gym and 80% what you do right here in the kitchen. But between owning two of my own businesses and putting out daily content, I don't have time to meal plan anymore. So I've been eating Factor 75 meals for the last few months while I've been dieting, because they're fast, fresh, and easy. My meals get delivered to my front porch every Tuesday, and they go straight into the fridge because they're always fresh, never frozen. 3 minutes in the microwave and I'm eating pesto bacon and tomato chicken bake with creamy broccoli rice and garlic herb broccoli. And I've literally been eating their meals for months, but they have so many options that I've never even tried this one. So we're gonna go on this journey together, and I'm gonna give you my honest opinion. Yo, that is smooth. Get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month's order by using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Bussin'.
To be able to really speak and have a voice to people who are suffering and sick, I know that myself, like, I needed to know that someone else had been there. So before we get into the redemption story, man, we got to talk about some of the dirt, bro. Can you explain to us a little bit about your family and your upbringing?
You know, I grew up, I had a crazy, very diverse upbringing, because my mother was the daughter of Waylon Jennings, right? She was 16 when she had me. She had fell in love with an old West Nashville roughneck, good old boy, hustler, that came from a very poor family. So the dynamic of that always, my whole life kind of straddled the tracks, right? My father was murdered when I was 10. My mom had been through abusive relationships because her and my dad split when I was 4. So she had been in some abusive relationships with a couple guys, married to an abusive guy for a few years, and she got divorced when I was like 8 or 9 from that. But it was a cycle. I watched my mom get her ass kicked, and she did incredible of like hiding it and protecting me. She was 16 when she had me, so she was just a baby as well and trying to figure life out on her own. But as I got older, after my father had passed and stuff, my mom, super strong woman, just wanted to show she could do it on her own. She didn't want Waylon's money. She didn't want a handout. She wanted to prove to the family that, she was an independent woman and she could handle it on her, by herself. So because of that, she went to work. She kind of gave up on her music career for a while, was raising a badass son. And so we bounced around a lot, moving to different sides of town and different neighborhoods and, more based on your income, lower class. So where I kind of grew up the first 10 years of my life in a really structured, even though my mom was young and just figuring it out, she was still present for the most part because she toured as well with Waylon for years. And but it pretty happy home till I was 10. Like I saw things. I'd go to my dad's house on the weekend in West Nashville and got some crazy stories from those days, just being a kid and watching that side of the world. And so then when she decided to move out of that house and out from underneath Waylon's financial help, it was like a complete culture shock for me, because we moved to different towns. I was thrown into, different public schools and started really getting into trouble. Joined a gang by the time I was 12. And fast forward, by the time I was 15, I was out of her custody. I was living with my uncle back in West Nashville, my dad's dad. And he was kind of raising me, trying to teach me how to be a man, which he did. He taught me how to work hard, how to take care of your family. But I got a lot of those irrational beliefs from that too. Those, you feed your family by any means necessary. It's okay to do wrong if it's for the right reason. All those things that we learned as youth in those situations. There's survival skills, right? But those ended up being the same patterns and thoughts that I had to break free from to become who I am now.
Amen.
So throughout my life, I'm just kind of the short end of it. I was a gang member. I was selling drugs by the time I was 14, running the streets. Been shot twice, in and out of jail. Landed a pretty big case by the time I was 21. Did 15 months, came out on community corrections. Was a single father by that point. With 2 kids. The mother of my kids was fighting another Fed case. Started having more kids. Got back into the streets after years of like trying to do the right thing, just working construction, working in restaurants, doing whatever I could do to get by and feed the family. Doing music as much as I could, right? Because back then it wasn't paying the bills. And I, ended up having 5 kids. And then finally landing my big sentence where I went away. I got 13 years in the state for cocaine conspiracy, 5 years in the feds for an attempt to possess with the intent to distribute oxycodone. And kind of same story as you. I was always a hustler and, addicted to drugs, addicted to the life, and just riddled with insecurities and all the post-traumatic, all the things that it came from the life that I had, being a kid that was, abused sexually young, being raised by a single mother. And one of the last things my dad told me before he passed was, it's your job on the face of this planet as a man to protect the women and children in your life. Mm-hmm. So like every assault charge that I have is beating up some guy random guy that I saw beating up his old lady, And I just always had that, also I was riddled with a lot of regret for a long time, and because my father, when he was murdered, right, I was 10 years old. I was outside playing football. My mom yelled outside, "Hey, your dad's on the phone." And I was like, "Tell him I'll call him back. I'm outside playing football." Come in the house that night, find out that he's dead. They told me that he committed suicide. So most of my teenage days, years, I was suicidal, right? It was like, that's the way my daddy went, that's how I'm gonna go. We also lived in an era where we didn't think we'd live to see 18, you know?
Yeah.
That was kind of like the mantra, right, for all of us.
I thought I'd die at 27, like all the rock stars, and I turned 27 in a prison cell, or 28 in a prison cell, going, fuck, I didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but I lived with that regret for years and years, thinking that, what if I'd answered the phone for my dad that day?
Man.
You know, what if I'd have just quit playing football and went in, would my dad still be here? And then the other things that come with it when you have a parent that commits suicide is like, was I not good enough? You know, you live with a lot of that. So I had a lot of insecurities and a lot of shit deep inside that haunted me all through my childhood and growing up. And it wasn't until I was 18 that I found out he was killed. And my uncle was like getting on to me. He was like, why you always talk like that? And I was like, well, that's how my dad died, suicide. And he was like, boy, your daddy didn't die from suicide. He was killed. And I was like, well, why did y'all let me live with that regret my whole life? And he was like, well, I'd rather you live with regret than revenge.
That's heavy.
Heavy. And so that was another chapter where like I was relieved from that. You know, I got a little bit of closure, but then it was like, well, who killed my daddy? And it wasn't until last year that I found out that it was a family member. And I found out on her deathbed that they had gotten into an altercation and she had shot him that night. And, you know, she was one of my favorite family members all throughout my life, you know. And so when I found out, I actually had my arm around her when another family member told me in front of her. And I didn't feel any different about her. You know, I think by that point in my life, I had dealt with so much and I had processed so much and became such a different person that I was able to just be like, you know what? I love you. And I would have liked to have found out why, but she passed that night. So I never got that closure, but I got a piece of closure from it, you know. But so just riddled with all that crazy shit, I'm like bouncing all over the place, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, bro.
But just being riddled with all that, you know, for so long, I didn't really know, you know, there's a saying, if you don't know where the fire started, you'll just burn in the flames, right? And I didn't really never know where the fire started. I just knew that it was inside of me. You know, as early as I can remember, we're playing cops and robbers. I was always the robber. You know, we're playing cowboys. I'm always Billy the Kid. You know, I just always had that like ingrained inside of me. And then as I got older, I would lash out in violence or I would lash out with, you know, just crashing. And I never really understood why. And that's why I say prison was the best thing that ever happened to me, because when I caught this last sentence, you know, I get to prison and people ask me all the time, they're like, well, how did you feel when you walked into prison? And I was like, relieved. All the shit that I was doing, you know, selling drugs and involved in all this gang activity and just everything that was happening in my life, it was constant turmoil and chaos. So when that door shut, I was like, whew. And of course, now I got to deal with some guys in here. I got to still watch my back, but we're in an enclosed room and I can fight.
Yeah.
It's different than when you're on the streets and, you know, you don't know where it's coming from.
No, it's funny. I know that feeling, that sigh of relief, because when I got busted by the Secret Service and the SWAT team out there in Port St. Lucie, Florida, like they came out the bushes with automatic weapons pointed at our heads.
Yeah.
And I just threw my hands in the air and breathed a sigh of relief. And usually when people got guns pointed at their head, they got something else going on inside. Like, oh shit, what's going on? I just knew, okay, this can finally be over. I needed them to stop me, bro. Like there's been times in my life when I got arrested that I feel like it was more of a rescue mission than them actually like doing something wrong to me, you know, because I always knew I was doing wrong. I knew I was living wrong. I could take accountability for it as much as I had to numb my conscience with substances and everything. I knew that what I was doing was wrong, but you kind of breezed over. And I love the humility, and I love that you don't glorify your case. But wasn't it like a $4 million cocaine bust? Wasn't that the biggest cocaine bust in Nashville history?
At that time, they were calling it that. I'm sure there's been bigger ones now, but yeah, it was big. You know, there was they got a lot of different people, a lot of kilos of cocaine. You know, it was kind of the conspiracy was 200 kilos of cocaine, but you know, it was 50 coming in every month, right? They seized a bunch of cars. I didn't get picked up on the first bust. They busted. They got like 12 of my homies, and I'm sitting in a house that's rented in the name of the cartel that's coming across the screen. I'm like, fuck. So when I did When You Come Home, I'm actually looking out the blinds, thinking, like, with the microphone set up next to the window, thinking they're about to come get me.
God, that song
Like
got me
waiting
through
for
so much, bro.
Yeah, and
So much.
like I was living. That song is in real time. You know, like literally recorded it, looking out the blinds, waiting for them to pull up and arrest me. They didn't arrest me at that time because everybody was being quiet, and the informant that they had ended up backing out. So then, like 9 months later, my homie's calling me from jail, and he's like, "When are they about to let us out?" I was like, "Oh, for real?" He was like, "Yeah." He was like, "The feds just dropped the case." I was like, "Cool." What happened was the DA wasn't about to let up. The state DA that he helped gave part of his task force to the feds to track us down and everything, right? Get everybody. Wasn't going to happen. They flipped one of the guys, and he pointed out my voice in a phone conversation because I was on a bunch of phone calls just as unknown male, you know. And so then they swooped back in and grabbed me. And at that time, I'd already caught a Fed case and was out on bond on the Fed case, fighting that case until I'll go in one day for a piss test, and here comes the DEA like, yeah, we got an indictment for you for 200 kilos of cocaine and 600 pounds of weed in the school zone. And, you know, by this point, they've raided all these houses. They got all these money. They got all these guns. They've tracked bank records back, you know, below the border and stuff. So,
Bubba, you do got a pretty distinguishable voice.
yeah. yeah, for sure. It was a lot higher pitched back then. If you listen to my old songs compared to now, I guess life has just gave me more of a growl.
Same, bro. Same. So that within a school zone is a nasty bastard, bro.
Dude, I know. And it's like, we were never near fucking school zones, right?
They tried that shit on me too, man. I actually bailed out, hired a private forensic investigator, and he did the math on it, and they were nowhere near, bro.
Yeah.
There were 44 feet within the, you know, the 1,000 feet. It was over 44 feet. That 44 feet saved me another 5 years in prison.
Yeah, for sure. No, that school zone. Well, that was, you know, I get it, right? Like, I'm all for people doing shit near kids, having a little bit harder, you know. But they use that, just like they have RICO and everything else. They use that to just entrap people into higher times and, you know, bigger numbers when it's not even that. Like, the house that no drugs were ever found near a school zone. It was like one of the houses that one of the guys was living in, that one of the cars that transported drugs was in the driveway of a car that was within 1,000 feet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So tell the people, how much drugs did they actually ever catch you with?
They've never caught me with anything. I've never been caught with a joint, a weed, a gram of cocaine, a single pill. My Oxycontin case was 5,000 OCs, and they didn't find anything on me. They didn't find the money. The informant, who was somebody that I'd been dealing with for a long time, and she had got flipped. She tried to set me up. We're past statute of limitations now, so I can talk about it, but she jumped in the car. I showed her the money. She hopped out of the car and struck off running across the parking lot. So I knew what it was.
Yeah.
So I immediately hit the spot that had the hydraulic arms on the dash, you know, that pushed the airbag up, right, like transformers. Slid the cash back in there, shut it as they're running up to the car. So, like, they never found the cash. No deal actually went through. No transaction was made. Because of the wiretap not sounding like you couldn't understand exactly what we were saying. They had to drop it from 5,000 pills to 500 because the only thing you hear me say is 10,000. Right? I was saying each one of these is $10,000, but all you hear me say is 10,000, and then the text message on the price per pill, I was able to drop it down from 5,000 pills to 500 pills, which helped out tremendously. And the thing is I had never sold a OC in my life.
No, you were doing this as a favor.
Doing it for a favor. I hate oxycodone, right? I used to pop Lortabs, sell Lortabs and stuff like that, but I didn't even like perks, right? I just felt like they were too strong, and I had a lot of friends that were addicted to like Roxys and OCs, and I watched what it did to their lives. So I never messed with the OCs. And a friend of mine had just came back from war. He was handy, had fucked his lungs up and couldn't, he was on disability, but his Army disability hadn't kicked through yet. And, he was like, bro, I can get rid of those, please grab them. My brother-in-law at the time, who is no longer with us, he was like, bro, please get those. So I'm trying to help them. I'm going to get them for a price they're going to make just as much as I am off of them because of the inflation on the OCs at the time. So I was really doing it as a favor. And then, the friend of mine that was in the Army was the one that ended up rolling, and because they didn't have anything on us. There was no transaction. The text messages weren't drug talk. Like there was nothing but a couple numbers in there. You couldn't really say what it was. But, you live and you learn, and I took that shit on the chin and went down by myself.
Yeah.
And did it.
Absolutely.
Glad I did. I would have definitely ended up either getting 100 years for the next drug charge or, being killed or, killing somebody. It would have been something, because that life, we all know where it leads, and I wasn't going to slow down. I was just, like you said, you start to become like you feel invincible. All right, you beat a couple cases, you win a couple wars, and next thing you think that you're running shit, and there's always somebody out there better than you.
Always. Yeah, man. So let's talk about prison for a minute, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, 100%.
How was prison for you? I know that you used it in a very positive way, but did you see some gnarly shit while you were in prison?
Oh yeah, for sure. I saw a lot of crazy. I mean, as soon as I got to the state prison, I saw somebody get hit across the head with a lawnmower blade. Seen a guy getting raped for being a child molester straight out the gate, like first week.
So how do they, where you were at, do people who rape child molesters, do they get viewed like other sex offenders, or is it just like looked the other way?
Oh, definitely look the other way.
Yeah, that's where I was at. It was the same thing, man. We had lifers that would pick up a little chomo punk, and they'd be out walking with a black eye and a wedding ring on the fucking track on the yard and shit.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Nobody cared because that dude was doing kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of places, especially the people that I dealt with, they were more on the let's beat them into an inch of their life and make them go sit in the in medical for 6 weeks and recover,
Yeah.
And then they'll either ship them out or throw them back in here and we'll put them back in there,
Mm-hmm.
But definitely saw a lot of guys that would sexually assault them as well, which I don't care what you do to them. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. If I'm the one that's putting the hand down, I'm gonna beat them to an inch of their life. I'm not gonna let them. I got the shirts that say "Kill all pedophiles," and I think they should all get it, 100%. But if I'm doing it, I want them to. I'm gonna do it 2 or 3 times. I want them to feel it.
Yeah. I'm using hands, not penis.
Yeah.
Like I'm
No,
not
for sure.
I'm not fucking them into submission.
No.
I'm a bash their head off the cement. You know what I'm saying? Or run something up in through them and toss them down the stairs like the trash they are. But I can't.
That's what I love about, like, I got homies that did a lot of time in Cali.
Yeah.
They're ruthless out there. And boys are like, oh, that dude's a weirdo. New guy comes in. He's fresh on the yard, wants to prove himself. He goes, stabs a pedophile,
Mm-hmm.
Like they use them as like a rite of passage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So like when I was in prison, the gang that I was with, if we didn't have something that was like relevant and popping, any type of like really hard politics, when it was time for our prospects to do, put in some work before their final vote, we'd send them and be like, yo, this is your time to show us what you can do.
Yeah.
Fuck this dude up as bad as you can, and just send them on a chomo and, just see what they were made of out there on a chomo. The problem is have you ever met a pedophile that could fight back?
No.
I've never seen a pedophile that could fight.
That's why they fuck with kids.
Yeah.
Because they're not gonna try to rape a grown man.
Nah.
They're gonna get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
It's always the weakest people always prey on the most innocent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I've never seen one that was.
Did you guys have COs that would look the other way so that you could get them?
1,000%, yeah. A lot of those COs, man, they're still human. They got kids. They hate them motherfuckers just as much as we do. Nobody protects them except for the security team in the prison, and that's only because they run out of room or where to put them. You know what I mean? They're like, bro, we have to sneak a couple of these pedophiles in here and act like they're not pedophiles, because otherwise our shoes are filled up.
What would they do to try to sneak them through on you guys?
Fake paperwork.
Holy shit.
Dude, they'd give them paperwork. They'd send them in with paperwork, and you see this little kid come in, and he's like, yeah, no, or this old man or whatever. And you could tell they've never sold drugs in their life. They'd have paperwork saying they got caught with 10 pounds.
No.
And you're like, no, you didn't, motherfucker. And you can't even get your paperwork that fast anyway. Like they don't let you bring your paperwork in when you come into a federal facility. You got to go to the counselor and ask for your paperwork to be sent in. And even then, sometimes they won't. Because if you got paperwork of who snitched on you and shit like that, they don't want you passing that around the prison if one of the informants or, because then it just, then you're shedding light on who's who and somebody gets stabbed in the bathroom or something,
Yeah, so was that feds?
Yeah, I was in the feds.
Yeah, at least where I was at, like that's the only thing they let you take. You could take a Bible with you because that's some sort of constitutional right that you have, and they'll let you take your legal paperwork. So before you leave county, you're writing down everybody in county's info on the back of your paperwork and shit. So
that's how the state was too.
Yeah, instant paperwork party. Yeah, you walk in the door and throw it down on the table and be like, "This is who I am."
100%.
Who the fuck is anyone that's going to be around me?
In the feds, they it's like a few day process because you come in, you just have your bus tub, you don't have any of your stuff yet. SIS goes through all your stuff, and then they'll give it to you, but all legal paperwork has to be requested from the counselor. Where I was at Terre Haute, that's how it was, and at Lexington as well, I believe. But so if they come in straight with their paperwork, we already know it's fucked up.
Yeah, that's why Ian Bick, man, it took Ian a little bit to get his paperwork, and he went in there with the thick glasses and super young and baby face, and they just automatically assumed he was a chomo. They made him sit at the table for a couple days till he got his paperwork.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm not trying to get killed my first day here. Fuck this.
Yeah, no, I get it. You know what? And I didn't really. Most of the people that I saw that it was normally older guys. I didn't see a lot of young pedophiles coming in just in the facilities that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was a couple guys that came in that we had to weigh it out. They're 18 coming in and they were dating a 15-year-old girl, and in their state there wasn't a 4-year law, but they were both in the same high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And parents press charges and they got a sex charge, and then you got to make that moral decision like, fuck, whatever, if you let that slide or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there's some areas where there is like a little bit of gray area with stuff, bro. You
yeah.
gotta be a human being with people.
For sure.
But, I always say pedophiles aren't people.
Yeah.
So if
straight up.
It's pretty easy to determine if somebody is violating a child for their
100%.
sexual gratification.
Yeah.
Or if it's one of those situations where somebody got a fucking bum beef.
Dude, you just made me think of, there's this guy, he was so fucking funny, and he, crazy because he looked like a chomo, right? He had like the gray hair, the glasses, and he was like kind of wiry, and everybody, like he had so much hell in different, and he was in the state prison with him, but he had so much hell bouncing around, and he'd have to show his paperwork every time, and even then sometimes they'd be skeptical that it wasn't fake, because he was like an insurance salesman or something, and he like got on cocaine, and then started like wilding out, spent all his money on cocaine, then started robbing his cocaine dealer, accidentally shot some Mexican guy that couldn't speak English that was bringing him cocaine, ends up in jail on this like robbery spree. But he's like, he was an insurance salesman. So you would never think that he was really in there for all that crazy shit, and he didn't look like it. But we were going to do a movie called No Chomo, right? Like no homo with no chomo, because he would literally get like, they would like almost beat him up every fucking facility he went into just because he looked the part.
Yeah.
But
so on that real quick, brother, just like the progression, it's interesting how like addiction can get us into some of these wild situations.
Oh, yeah.
But then for me, the lifestyle, the adrenaline, all of that shit ended up being more addictive than the substances were.
1,000%.
Yeah, like going out there and you know, kicking in doors.
Yeah.
Going out there, getting in high-speed chases with the police, trying to get the gun and the pounds of dope out the window before they can get to you, and seeing if you can get away.
Yeah, no, I still like, you know, that adrenaline of moving drugs across town, you know, or just having, you know, all the things you said, but just plus like just day-to-day motion, you know, like I used to feed off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which now I have to catch myself and still make sure that I'm being aware enough. You know what I mean? Like, but I used to, I sometimes still miss that feeling of like being in traffic. Like, look, you know, now the police pass, it doesn't even faze me, right? Because I'm like, I ain't doing nothing, you know, for them to even pull me over. And if they do, I'm good, right? But all of that is so much of an adrenaline, and it was definitely the most addictive part. Like, I can't think of a drug right now that I'm like, damn, I'd like to try that drug one more time.
No.
But boy, I'd love to feel that adrenaline again.
Yeah.
I just can't. I
Yes,
can't do
sir.
it. I fight that battle every day, man. You know, there's been many times in my 8 years home where it's been like, whether it was financial situations or whatever was going on in my life, I had to really, really fight that urge to not go back to that life. You know, just like an addict has to fight that urge multiple times in a day or a week or a month, you know.
So for the people out there who still struggle with that same stuff, just like me and you do, because
Yeah.
I struggle with that shit all the time. Like I don't ever want to go out and like hit a meth pipe, but you know, like when times are tough and financially and everything, especially through COVID, while I was on pretrial and shit, and everybody's wearing masks.
Yeah.
I just got busted for organized fraud and counterfeiting, and all of a sudden everybody can wear masks in the bank. I'm like,
Yeah.
bitch, what? God, you're testing me. I see it.
Yeah.
What do you do when you get those urges, man? How do you work through it?
Man, there's a lot of different things that I do, and it depends on what that urge is, you know. But it's like, I have to remind myself, like, bro, for me, I have to remind myself, like, where my kids were, right? Because my kids were drugged through dope houses and were molested and were abandoned and ended up in foster care, right? So that's one good thing for me, is like, think about my kids and remember where they were and how they're living now.
Yeah.
You know, also, is that who I want to be? Is that who I want my kids to see me as? So many people, when I was coming home or in prison, and my kids were pleading like, oh, my dad's going to get out and do good. They're like, no, he's not. He's lying to you. He's going to get out and be the same person that he is. You know, they're like, that dude's a motherfucker. He is not going to change. But my kids believed in me, and they never gave up on me, and they never gave up hope, and they never lost faith that I was going to get out and do the right thing. So not letting them down. You know, there's just little things like that. Those are big things, but those are things that I have to remind myself constantly. And I'm going to be honest, I've had plenty of times in the 8 years being home where I've slipped back into old patterns, drinking too much, or even as simple as getting involved in the wrong conversations. You know, like you get to telling war stories with somebody, a couple drinks in you, next thing you know, you're glorifying it. And it'll pull you back into some of those same ways of thinking. Since I came off parole and I've been able to go back into prisons, it's been real humbling.
Yo, that's good relapse prevention, man.
Fuck yeah,
that's
it is.
good relapse
I
prevention.
just went in with me and Kix Brooks from Brooks and Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
We just went in and did Turney Center Penitentiary, and there was 4 or 5 guys in there that I was incarcerated with 5 or 6 guys that I know from the streets, you know. And I was able to see guys that I was locked up in prison with just 8 years ago and go like, bro, I was right there, you know, you was there sitting next to me. Like, I'm here now, bro, and it's possible, you know. So being able to do that, but also going back into those facilities and remembering, smelling that smell, you know, and looking at those guys in the uniforms and shit, and remembering like, I'm one wrong decision away from being back in here, and next time they probably won't let me out.
No, I'm always trying to get into places like that to be able to go like. Me and Ian were able to come out here to Nashville, and they let us go in and speak. Amazing place.
Rutherford County.
Yeah, well, they're running a work release program out there. They're giving them all the treatment, all the job, teaching and classes and everything that they possibly can. So to see them become so progressive and to be helping so much. And the warden genuinely gives a fuck, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that warden is super cool. So, like, to see what they're doing there is great. And we got to go into Lone Oak County down there in Arkansas. They let us up in there. It was another situation where the warden was super cool. That was a county jail where they got a drug program, and me and Ian were able to speak to him. I'm always trying to get clearance to go into those places, but, like, I'm still on paper and shit. So
Yeah, well, let me know, because, like, before I came off of parole, I did San Quentin. And I've got the plug up there with San Quentin. My guys, we're doing a whole documentary right now called Redemption Road. And it's about, you know, it's me and a couple other guys that have been in prison. My daughter telling her story, my 25-year-old daughter, Brianna, who does music as well, telling her story of her mom did 3 years in the feds. I did 5 years. You know, she was bounced around on her own at some points. By the time I got out of prison, she was already, you know, she was 16, selling drugs, running from the police, going to school, working 2 jobs on her own, living with her boyfriend, you know. Now she's successful in the music career, has a music career, and so I got a great plug out there. I'm about to go out there and do a concert, and we're shooting a whole documentary about San Quentin, because they're the same way. It was the most dangerous prison in America, and now they've got these incredible programs. These guys that got life sentences are getting second chances. Getting out, giving back, you know, 50, 100 years and stuff. And I actually leave Monday to do Rikers Island, going in the Max block at Rikers Island, sing some songs and talk to the guys. So, you know, that things like that keep me grounded and remind me of, you know, what I went through and how easy it is to go back.
So people have thought I was crazy because, like, I've told a couple of people, yeah, you know, I paid like $2,000 to fly out to be able to go speak in a prison. They're like, you paid $2,000 to go into a prison? I'm like, you don't understand, bro.
Yeah.
Like, not that it's all about me, because it's 100% not all about me, but like, that shit keeps me sober.
No, for
that
sure.
shit keeps me on the straight path.
No,
and
100%.
if I can go out and give a little hope to people at their darkest hour, at their lowest point in life, and show them that, like, I'm a motherfucker like them.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who was as bad as you can possibly get.
Yep.
And I'm doing good now. Like, you can make it. People like us are the people who are the shining example to these people that make them think, holy fuck, man, if JD can do it, maybe I can do it.
No, 100%. You know, and that I built my whole brand on that. You know, like, I decided early in my music career that I was just going to be honest. Damn near what got me sent to prison. Right? Because I was rapping about all the shit I was doing. Even though back then, I wasn't glorifying it. I might talk about how much I had and, you know, what I was doing, but I was never like a stunt rapper. I was giving real facts of what I was doing, and I was showing that there's a dark side. I always kind of rapped about the darker side of it more than glorifying it, you know.
Which is why I always listened to you and loved you, bro.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that.
You talking about your little girl seeing you hiding in the attic.
Yeah.
Because they're after you, bro, and you're paranoid, but you know they're coming.
Yeah.
Like, that's real life shit. And people can tell real life shit to this fake, you know, actor, studio bullshit.
And even the new records that I'm doing, the country records I'm doing, you know, they're in the same vein. I'm just singing. You know, I actually I left to right just now, where the second verse says, she saw me through 2 indictments, took my calls from that prison phone. She was always the light, left the light on so I could find my way home. You know, like even in my country song, I'm talking about she saw me through 2 indictments, answered my calls from that prison phone.
Yeah.
You know, so like I believe in being honest. I feel like I learned early, I was like, man, I'm not gonna try to be something that I'm not. I'm not gonna try to tell somebody else's story. I'm gonna be 100% honest because I know there's a lot of people out there that go through the same thing that I've been through, and I'm just gonna tell the truth. And I've done it through my whole journey, to where people have seen the changes, they've seen the transition, they saw me being like the white Rick Ross, you know, before prison, and then coming out this changed man, and you know, through my faults and my, you know, my highs and my valleys, you know, just being true to myself and always singing about what is real in my life. And it gives people something to gravitate towards. It gives them to, you know, let them know they're not alone and that we're all going through the same shit. And every chance I get, I try to give them that inspiration. Like, look, man, everything that's in front of you right now, take every obstacle as an opportunity, you know, to sharpen your blade, to put another notch under your belt, another victory, you know.
And it's working. You had a #1 hit on the same week that Drake dropped an album, and he was sitting at #2, and you were sitting at #1. Independently, without all the money behind it.
Bro, we didn't have no corporate sponsors. I didn't even have a manager at the time, you know. No record label. I just got my own independent label that, you know, we don't have big budgets to put shit on radio or to do any of that. We're just putting out music that's true to us and you know, growing. But to have a #1 record, and it stayed #1 on iTunes for like months, you know, and
doesn't it still resurge?
Yeah, it's surging right now because of the election,
you
know, and all the shit going on, the hurricanes. I just saw there was like a ton of videos from Helene up in the Appalachians that are using that as a sound. So I'm glad, you know, that's one of the biggest honors as an artist, is to create something that's true to yourself, that becomes so real to other people that they latch onto it as a battle cry during hard times, and through the stuff that they're going through, giving them hope, you know?
Yeah.
So
how big of a part did God play in your story, bro?
The biggest. You know, I tell people all the time, like, I'm only alive because of my granny's prayers, you know, my mama's prayers. Like, I grew up in a household where my great-grandmother was a Pentecostal preacher back when women weren't allowed to talk in church, you know, and she used to carry people up to the mountains and pray over them. So my grandma Jessie was always, you know, rooted us deep in the Word of God, and she used to always tell me, she'd be like, "You're a seed of the servant of the Lord, and you got a special covering over you, right?" So like having that ingrained as a child, regardless what dark shit I was going through, I always had faith and always knew that I was a little better than I was being. So I always strived to be a better person, even when I was being a complete animal. I still had enough of that inside of me that kept me from going completely over the edge, right? And it always gave me, like, dude, I've been in a car and shot 17 times, and we looked at the car the next morning, like, dude, it looks like every one of those shells went through my body. You know, I've had so many, you know, burn marks on my face from where the bullet flew by so fast that it powder burned my face. So many different instances that it was like, there's no other explanation but God, right? And then as you know, when I went to prison, and I really was like, you know what, I want to really rekindle that relationship, which people try to talk shit if you go to jail and pick up the Bible. But it's like, bro, why do you think God put me here?
Yeah.
Half my other friends didn't make it here. They're in caskets. I'm here for a reason. I got a second chance for a reason. And all this shit, I can either make it I can either sit here, bitch, and cry about everything I've been in, or I can fucking own it, make it a testimony, and use it as a strength, right? Because God didn't bring me through all this shit for no reason. I have danced on the edge of death in every aspect you can, with drugs, violence, high-speed chases, you know, everything that you can think of. I've danced on the edge of death, and 90% of the people that I grew up and friends that I've had in my life aren't here anymore. They're all gone, right? There's a very select few of us, and half of them are either addicted to drugs, living in a fucking pity party, and they're days away from overdosing, any day away from overdosing, or they're fucking successful.
Yeah.
You know?
Fentanyl washed
Oh, it's killing it, bro.
80% of my friend
Fuck,
group and one of my kids off the planet.
That's crazy. That I can't even fathom that, you know, and I've lost a lot. But I lost, you know, the mother of my kids to an overdose, my kid's grandmother, my kid's grandfather, two of my kids' uncles, my stepkid's father. That's just direct in one family, right? That's not including the 100 friends from my childhood or from the past that I've lost in the last 4 or 5 years off fentanyl.
Do you think that do you think there's something more going on here than just cartels making money?
Oh, for sure.
I feel like it's chemical warfare. I feel like it's a
100%.
full-on fucking attack.
100%. I mean, I think 80% of it, the fentanyl comes from China anyway, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it's coming through Mexico.
Well, yeah, it was coming from China to Mexico, and then Mexico kind of tightened down because we were threatening them. And so now they tightened down on it being able to come through, and they started making some busts. So they started just sending precursors.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got cartels out there in dirty ass labs, you know, that aren't really laboratories.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just mixing this shit up, and, you know, they start putting it in. Who puts fentanyl into meth, bro? It's two completely oppositional highs. Yeah, cocaine.
Dude, me and Jelly just lost one of our good friends, Cushy. He was an incredible artist, great friend, great dude. There was like 6 or 7 people snorting out of the same pack of cocaine, and Cush just got a bad piece of it.
My kid, bro, 23 years old, just graduated from Barber College, got a great job, went out to celebrate, drank too much. Somebody offered him a little bit of cocaine, ended up not even being cocaine. It was pure fentanyl.
Yeah.
And, you know, he didn't make it. And that kid had gone out into the streets with me in Daytona Beach and handed out Narcan to people and everything, but nobody had it when he needed it.
Yeah.
It was fucked up,
Yeah,
bro.
no,
But I think it's part of their war. Like, China don't play short game.
Yeah.
China's playing a long game with our people. You know, they're infiltrating. I believe that they're infiltrating politicians.
100%.
I believe that they're infiltrating with the drugs. They're buying up our land.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're playing it smart. They'll never need to fire a shot, bro.
No. They're eating us from the inside out. Mm-hmm. I just heard the number the other day. I forgot what it was about what percentage of American farmland China really owns.
Oh,
it's crazy.
I heard it the other day too, and I
don't
remember, but it's high as fuck, bro. And it's our farmland. It's our food source. Yeah. And a lot of it is near our military bases as well, which is doubly concerning.
Yeah.
So,
well, depending on how this year goes, that might all change.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the first things that dude is talking about is seizing all that land back from China if he becomes president.
I have a lot of friends, so I do a little bit of work in exposing child traffickers and shit like that. And I have a lot of friends who are in that line of work professionally. Like, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They eat, sleep, and breathe that shit, which is mind-boggling to me, because with just the work that I've done throughout the years, trying to expose people and everything, it takes such a toll on your mental health. So these people are such fucking heroes because they're immersed in darkness and they still are light, you know?
Able to have a light.
But they said that, you know, they shut down as soon as Trump was out of office. They got a lot of those branches got shut down.
Yeah.
Well,
we know. I mean, all the proof is there, and it's like I'm not going to go into a bunch of shit just because people know where I stand, and I stand firmly on what I stand on. But also, my message is beyond politics.
Yeah.
Right. My message, I want everybody on all sides to get the message that you can be fucking better. Don't do fucking drugs. Stand up, be a fucking man, be a woman, take care of your kids, protect your family. You know what I mean? Like, what my brand stands on is more than politics. So I try not to get too political, but there's some things that that are just fucking good and evil, right? And that's all the shit that I touch on. You know, don't fuck with our fucking kids. I love this fucking country. I love God. Fuck everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, but we already know. There's all the proof is there. We have too much information at our fingertips. Everybody's been exposed. We know who's who, right? We know that this is 100% good and evil, and there's no fucking common ground, and you cannot ride that fence.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
at this point, I don't care what your political beliefs are. I don't care what religion you're. There's certain lines that you're either on this side or you're fucking evil.
Yeah,
Straight up.
absolutely.
And that's why we are in a spiritual war. This isn't a fucking race for politics.
No.
Straight up. Like, you know, Elon Musk said the other day, he was like, if Trump loses, this is the last election. You know, they've been fighting for that dictatorship for so long.
And I have friends, like, I just want to make it clear, I have friends that are on both sides,
Oh, me
left
too.
to right down the middle, you know what I'm saying?
Some of my best friends are liberals.
We're
and
all
Democrats.
Americans.
Yeah.
We're all fucking Americans at the end of the day.
Yep.
And that's what's important. We need to stand up for our kids and our
Yeah.
country and our way of life.
And the freedom of speech, the freedom to bear arms, the freedom of, you know, I'm a Christian, but I believe that this is America and you should be able to, you know, practice your religion,
Yeah.
right? No holds barred. You should practice your religion. That's what makes America great. That's what this country was founded on, is the freedom to be you, you know. But when you start fucking with my kids or telling my kids what they can or can't do, or you know, pushing an agenda, that's when it gets bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's when that's when it'll strike off. Guys like me and you aren't going to sit around and let that happen.
Nah.
You know.
So what do you have coming up musically, brother?
Oh God, you got another hour,
I know you are a absolute hustler.
dude. So I got in a place in my life where I've been having so much fun with the music, right? Because I felt like I had reached a pinnacle with rap. I became the best Struggle Jennings I could be as a rapper, right? From my bars to my delivery, I do what I do best. And being, you know, growing up with country being a background, I was like the first one, at least in my circle, and, you know, unless you count Bubba Sparks or the Tim McGraw thing, I was one of the first ones in history to really start implementing country music into rap, right? It's because it was my love for country music and my love for rap. I was always different than like the hip hop artists because a lot of them were rapping about country stuff, right? Or the country rappers were rapping about, because they were from the country, where I was more out in the country a lot. I got family, I'm from the South, but I was an inner city dude. I was a dope boy, right? So my context was always that. You've never heard me rap about, you know, super country shit. But when I dove in and started singing, because that was always my dream. I told Jelly 20 years ago that I was going to have gold teeth singing country music. And he told me recently, he was like, bro, he was like, I thought you were crazy, but I beat you to the punch.
Yeah.
Right? And which is, you know, I'm so fucking proud of him. He's amazing and he's done so good. And anybody that's hating on him or where he's at right now is just a fucking hater.
No, that's crazy, bro. Since Saturday Night Live, there's not been like an hour of any day that his new song has not been just on repeat in my fucking head. Like, I can't get it out. He's killing it right now.
No, he is. He's killing it. And I'm so proud of him. But but so this was always like a passion of mine, a dream of mine, but I was always insecure about singing, right? Because I grew up around some great singers, dude. My mom is an amazing singer. My grandma's got one of the best, you know, country voices in history, female country voices in history. My grandpa, Waylon, like I just grew up around great singers. And so I was always like, man, I can't sing. Well, once I started diving in and started finding my voice, and then like I was like, fuck it, just like I'm gonna go to a coach for the gym, I'm gonna go to a coach for boxing, I'm gonna start going to a vocal coach. And so over the course of just the last 3-4 months, I've been at the vocal coach a couple days a week. and just like learning where I'm supposed to sing from and like finding my voice and how everything lines up for you to be able to sing and what different ways to breathe. And, it's like, it's a fucking science to it unless you're just born with it, right? And so just diving into that, and then I go back in the studio and I sing the song and I hit this note and I'm fucking excited. It's like the first time I wrote a song and rapped on a microphone, that excitement, that's how I feel now. So like I just posted the other day, I've got over 40 songs unreleased right now.
Damn.
From the last 2 months.
Okay.
I did an entire album with my uncle Shooter. He produced the whole album on me. A guy named Ned Cameron's doing an album on me. I've got a single that's supposed to hit the radio in January with Jelly, called Only God Knows. But I've got, that album with Ned Cameron, he produced it, incredible country album, like all shit that is true to me, but the music is in line to where it could be on country radio. Like they're all hit records. The Shooter album, I just did a album with Brian Martin.
Nice.
Called 1976, old school country. We just brought the band in, played it, sang with it, like it's all live, all right there. We didn't even really mix it, no tuning on the vocals, just raw, like it was recorded in 1976.
Yeah.
Super excited about that. Me and my daughter have a project right now, almost finished, called Sunny Days 2. Just finished up producing and co-producing and writing with Caitlin Curtis on her new album, which is gonna be one of the best female country albums to date from anybody. I mean, it's incredible music. I feel like I'm missing something. I've got so much music right now, and I've got like so many different projects in the works. I just dropped El Camino, so I'm still trying to push it a little bit because there's so many records on there that are so near and dear to my heart. But I'm excited. Like as much as I love that album, I don't want to just give up on that album and quit promoting it, right? And I'm about to go out on the El Camino tour next week, 30 days out. But it's like I got these new songs where I'm singing twice as good as I was on the last album. They're better written songs. They're just, everything's constantly elevating as I grow. So it's like I want to just keep throwing shit out.
Let me just say this. Don't sleep on El Camino just because he's excited about his other stuff, because El Camino is fire.
Yeah, man. Yeah. There's so many songs on there like Coming Home that are just like, from the soul about being in prison and stuff. And when you're independent, like I haven't had the money to shoot videos on all the songs or put any money into promotion or anything. Like I literally just spend everything I got recording and touring, and taking care of my family. So it's like I don't have big budgets to put it all over everywhere and put ads up and shit like that. So a lot of times the great songs get overlooked, just by lack of 3-4 years ago, it was a lot easier because there wasn't as much control on social media as there is now. Like now I've got 500,000 followers on Instagram, but if you look at my reach, only 10,000 of my followers saw a post.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And you're like, why? And it's just because the way they block shit, and if you got to pay to play, right? You got to promote it for it to even reach the people that already follow you. And the algorithms and shit, and all the major labels own most of the ad space. So like I can't get a banner. I can't, even if I had the money, I couldn't buy a banner on Apple Music to say Struggle Jennings' new album at the top when some random person that didn't know me pulled up Apple Music, because I can't even buy that, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's, at the same time, I own everything. I haven't sold my masters. I own all my masters. And we're doing what the fuck we want, exactly how we want to do it, and paying the bills,
So what I'm hearing from you is that everybody out there that's a Struggle Jennings fan who does content, man, we need you to be pushing these songs organically. And that's how we help this thing grow. Because everything that we do online, if you let 20, 30 of your people hear something that Struggle has done and they do the same, that's how this whole grassroots organic thing works. And we bring real music back up in this motherfucker and stop having everything dominated by, the Drakes and all of that.
Yeah. So, but I got so much fucking shit. I'm loving it. I love the new music. I've but that's where I felt I got this like new fire. And I've got an album that Malay and Yellow Wolf are co-producing on me.
Yes.
So, and it's about 50% country, 50% rap.
Yeah.
But crazy. I'll play you a couple of these records when we get off there. They're
Hell yeah.
nuts.
Speaking of Yellow, I heard a vicious rumor that when you first got popped, Yellow Wolf actually tried to drop $50K to bond you out.
He did, yeah. He was in Barbados, and he was like, dude, I'm coming back. I'm going to bond you out. And it was a $500,000 bond. He was like, how much I got to pay to get you out? I was like, 50 grand. He's like, I got it. He was like, I'm going to do it. Fuck it. And I had even talked to a bondsman that was going to take 25,000 from him because it was Yellow Wolf.
Yeah.
And then the feds put a hold on me. So I couldn't get out.
Man.
It was like, which I'm glad they put a hold on me before he paid the money, and they picked me back up 12 hours later, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the worst.
Yeah, you just gave him your money for nothing.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, man.
I've seen it happen to a lot of them.
Well, Struggle, man, I appreciate your time. I know everybody out there watching appreciates your time, man.
Yeah,
Thank you
man.
for sharing your
We need to
story
do
and
this
your
again.
fire.
We need to do this again.
Yo, please. And
I've been hearing you in Nashville a lot more, so.
Bro, I love it out here so much. Like, I fell in love
Come on,
with your
move on.
backyard.
Move on
homeboy.
down here.
I'm right now, actually, my parents are not doing as well.
Yeah.
And they don't got that many years left, and I robbed them of a lot of time. So
Yeah.
I bought the property next to theirs.
That's
and
amazing.
I took an old pole barn and
Yeah.
renovated it into a
Dude,
2-story
those are
house
so
with a
fire.
studio. And I can just walk across the little field
Where
and
you
go
at?
check on my mama. It's outside of Eugene, Oregon.
Okay.
But I'm out in the sticks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you and Jelly in band last year, man.
Yeah.
And it was like I'd been wanting to see you
love-
both for so long.
Oregon's so beautiful. You know what my favorite cities in the country is?
What?
Astoria.
Astoria, Oregon?
Yeah, I'm coming up there next year for the, what is it, the 40th anniversary of Goonies? Yeah, I'm coming up there for that.
Hell yeah, bro. We used to go mushroom picking out there all the
Yeah.
time because they had the weird ones, the cyanescens and
Yeah.
the Amanita mascaras and everything. But it's a beautiful place, man.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
bro.
love it.
And hey, anytime that you ever have something coming up with prison, or you can link me with somebody who might be able to see past my past and get me in there,
Now I can get you in San Quentin.
I'd love that.
I'll put you in a group chat today before we leave with Brandon Terrell, who he was just 2 years ago in San Quentin on a life sentence, and now he's out and pretty much has a key to the front door.
Nice,
And
dude.
he goes in and they do revivals and do church things and do drug rehab things and anti-violence things, and like they're doing a lot of really cool stuff, and the warden is just beyond great.
That's
there.
cool, man.
And
Hell
I
yeah.
walked in, dude. We walked in, full camera crew, my daughter, and we're literally, like, my 25-year-old daughter's getting to, like, walk in cells. Like, we're actually in the units talking to people and walking around. It's just crazy. It was a for real, surreal experience.
That's amazing, brother.
So-
Thank you so much, bro. I
Yeah, man.
appreciate you.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Big love to you, dog.
Likewise.